Well, ladies and gentlemen, we finally got it. Kamala Harris's first interview since it was announced she was replacing Biden. I'm going to go through this. Before I get into all the different clips, I do just want to say in watching this, the observation that I made was that some people are just not cut out for this job. And there's a reason that Obama did not want Harris. He wanted someone else. He wanted an open convention. You can tell that, and I think people, there's this kind of not understanding to where, like how unique the situation is. This woman did not win a primary. She did not go through the debates. There was no formal process. It's not like she's been a politician for 45, 50 years like Biden was. And she is just, to be honest with you, not very good at this. Like that's what, there's a reason they're hiding her from doing and you can see she just looks like a mess. Her answers are just, they're not concise. They're not coherent. They're not good. You would think her handlers would be saying, this is what you got to say. You got to say Y. You've got to tell people X. And it's just not happening. And we're going to go through like 4 or 5 of these different clips. And it's just not good. And even CNN after this was saying that their top people who are liberal people working with Obama, like David Axelrod, saying that she really didn't do much good here. And so let's see what this is. And listen, a lot of this is just them saying, all right, we're finally going to get an interview because everyone's been begging. Now we've done it, so please shut up. That's basically what this is. But we're going to go through all of these clips. Kamala refuses to say whether she'd legalize crossing the border illegally.
Her hand when asked whether or not the border should be decriminalized. Do you still believe that?
Huh.
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced.
What about amnesty?
That address and deal with people who cross our border illegally, and there should be consequence. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations who trafficking guns, drugs, and human beings. I'm the only person in this race who actually served a border state as attorney general to enforce.
And so that's what they're telling her to say. She's this badass prosecutor. Yeah, you are a prosecutor. Of course you were the only person, but that's just a total non-answer. Where's the concise policy? You've said 2 different things here, Kamala. You need to make your point clear. Is it illegal? Are you going to make sure you stop it? And what about the people already in the country? What's going to happen to them? Are they going to get deported? You're saying your stance now is that it's not legal to cross the border and people should face consequences. Well, there's people that have already done that in the country under your administration with Biden. So what is the answer to that? You see, there's not going to be any answers to any of this. The interview is so short, CNN. Yeah, CNN had to put a bunch of stuff in it. They were like doing cuts to where they were talking to Dana Bash, who was doing the interview. She was like reflecting on it. I think it was like 26 minutes total. There was a report that it was 18 minutes. I believe it was 26. At least that's what I saw. This next thing, Kamala Harris. Oh, this was horrible. She was asked a specific question about what she would do on day 1. And if, normally it would be like, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, W, T, all this different stuff, all this list on what you want to do. But with her, to be honest, she really would not do much because it's the exact same administration as Biden. So what is she supposed to say? She word salads her way through this answer.
If you are elected, what would you do on day 1 in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class.
And so there's no actual policy there. Saying you're going to strengthen the middle class doesn't relate to an actual action you would take on day 1.
When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions,
and it's already into a worthless story
of the American people, I think that
worthless slogans.
People are ready for a new way forward.
They're ready for a new way forward, but they're going to elect the VP of the current administration
in a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is
She's talking about Biden? Wow.
About diminishing the character.
That's
and the
really
strength
mean
of
to
who
say
we
to
are as
you're
Americans.
the vice president. That's nasty to say to
really
Biden.
Dividing our nation, and I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
So what would you do day 1?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do
Right,
to
but what's
invest
the policy?
in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000
Oh,
for
J.D.
families for the
Vance.
first year of their child's life, to help
J.D.
them
Vance your VP?
buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib. There's
Wait,
the
where's
work
the
that we're
butt
gonna
buddy
do
Walz?
that is about investing in
He's on the side. They
American
cut him
family
out of the
around
shot.
affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now.
Right, but the thing is, she gets asked about this, and there's no actual policy. I'm going to implement this. I mean, she does have policy. She did. I guess she did say the child tax credit. She's going to try and do that day one. But she, Bash asks her, and there's just nothing there. So then she has to re-ask her. So what are you actually going to do? You gave no answers. This is the issue that we run into with this lady. Here's another one. You supported banning fracking. Did it change in 2020? I made it clear where I stand. And by the way, CNN fact checked this, and she's lying. She did not say anywhere in 2020 during the debate, the vice presidential debate against Pence, where she stood on banning fracking. But it's clear that her people have said, listen, you don't want to seem like a crazy flip-flopper here in 2024. So just say you flip-flopped in 2020, because it'll be better if you say that. So that's the whole thing they're doing. They have to admit she flopped on the fracking, because originally in 2019, she said, yeah, we're going to ban it when she was running as the crazy liberal for president. And she drops out before she even made the first caucus. But then here we are in 2024. So they're saying, well, it'll look better if you say you flip-flopped, but you flip-flopped back in 2020, not in 2024. So that's the dynamic here. And then she also says, my values have not changed. Well, you just contradicted yourself. If your values didn't change, why would you give in and say you're not going to ban fracking? I thought your values were you were obsessed with, she said like in her first thing that they released, she's like talking about the Green New Deal. If you're obsessed with that, why would you give in and say, no, I'm not going to ban fracking? Isn't that your values? Your values were banning fracking, but now you're not going to. So you did change your values to try and win. So see, this is all hypocritical.
That clear on the debate stage in 2020. That
That's
I
false.
would
CNN
not ban
fact-checked it.
fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 2019, I believe.
And understand how important this topic is, and this is why they're doing it. It's very similar to immigration. She just has to admit she's changed her opinion. That's it. There's no word salad. There's no, well, we'll think about it. Because of how important these states are, Pennsylvania, and so, the Rust Belt in general, and how important the topic is, she has to say this. It's got to be ironclad. I'm not banning it. And they've told her to say that.
At a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question, I'm in favor
Look
of
at this
banning
dude.
fracking.
This dude
So,
is,
yes.
again, with the fake
So
pride.
it changed in that
Like,
campaign.
look at her. She looks like she's about
In
to.
2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
What made you change that position?
She's a
at the
Mike's
time?
Hard Lemonade
Well,
away from falling over.
Let's be clear. My values have not changed. I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate.
Well, then wouldn't you ban the fracking to do that? Isn't that the whole idea of it? See, why would you bring up the climate when you're saying you're not going to ban fracking? That's the whole idea of it. So, Dana Bash asking the questions. This is the big question. So you have been VP for 3.5 years. The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but
Unrealized
do it in a
gains
way
tax,
that
that's
allows
American
them
dream.
to actually
45%
get on the
capital gains
path
tax is
to
American dream.
achieving that goal
I'm
and that
sorry.
dream.
So you have been vice president for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that.
And so this is where I kind of got surprised that she wasn't coached up to say, like, there's no accountability. If I was talking to her, I would be like, just say, listen, the VP position is a lot different than the president. And have her say her, some crappy, oh, I like Joe, but we disagree on a few different things, and I want to implement some things that he hasn't done yet. And again, the VP position, for as great as it is and the experience that I've gotten, it's not nearly as powerful in the amount of impact and change that I could make as being the president. I thought she would have answered it something like that. But instead, it's just excuse after excuse after excuse. We had to recover from the pandemic. We had to do this. We had to do this. So that's why I wasn't able to do it. There's no actual ownership or her saying, I'm going to be candid with you. I just don't have a lot of power as VP.
And I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down to less than 3%. The work that we have done to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. Donald Trump said he was going to do a number of things, including allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Never happened. We did it. So now,
Donald Trump had a 100 times better economy.
As I travel in the state of Georgia and around our country, the number of seniors that have benefited, I was in Nevada recently.
But again, this is nothing. You're talking about stories now. The question is, what are you going to do differently? Now you're getting into a story.
A grandmother who showed me her receipts. And before we capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month.
You see the dude with long hair on TikTok with the receipt showing from 2021 to 2024 how much inflation. Is that what she's talking about? Remember the dude with really long hair with the TikTok video where he's like, back in 2021, I have my my online order for Walmart, and it was like $100. Now it's $300. Is that what she's talking about? Of course not. But and here we got the butt buddy talking. Walz tries to dodge his stolen valor allegations. This is another thing where I'm surprised as how they handled it. He tries to give excuses. And
you said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country.
Make sure you say that.
Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially.
That caused you to lie about your military history?
Passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war, did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that.
Oh, he's referencing the dog. Well, that was because they thought there was another dog, and that's a whole thing. But listen, there's no accountability. All you have to say is, yes, I misspoke. I'm sorry. I take my military service extremely seriously. I know a lot of veterans were offended by that. That was not my intention. I served proudly for 24 years, and that's a lot more than a lot of people can say. But there's no accountability. Oh, I misspoke, but it's the big bad evil Republicans for making fun of X, Y, and Z. Again, with these people, there's no accountability. That's the problem. And then this woman, I just disagree with this completely. She was like, she sounded, I don't know what this woman said. She says like she sounded presidential or something.
Now, you might not like the way she answered him, but she answered him as a capable, qualified leader. And I
completely disagree with that. My main takeaway was that just something, again, guys, this was not like the Democrats' golden child. Biden was so horrible in his debate that they were like, all right, we kind of have to do Kamala now, because if we switch to someone else and Biden endorses Kamala, if we switch to someone else, it's going to look really bad. So at least make it the VP. So it's at least a little realistic in terms of us believing in some form of democracy. If we just have an open convention, that's going to be decided by the elite. I mean, it already was decided by them to get Biden out, like Nancy Pelosi said, and Schumer and Obama. But it's like Harris was not their number one choice. She did not sound presidential to me. She sounded, everything's an excuse. There's no actual coherent answers. This is going to be an extension Biden presidency, and she can't get around it. So she has to give word salad answers and tell all these stories and try and just waste time. And again, she didn't want to do this. It was a forced thing. It's been 35 days since she became the candidate for the Democrats, and there's been no talking to the media. So I disagree with that completely. My main takeaway was that some people, I mean, she's just not cut out for this. This is ridiculous. So that's what I would say when it comes to that. And you can see Axelrod, I don't think she moved the ball forward.
It wasn't a huge, I don't think she moved the ball that much forward.
Well, it's certainly, I mean, is not very good. We've got CNN unexpectedly asking a good question. We're not going back. Oh yeah, so I already discussed this, I think. I already discussed that one. The banning fracking question as well. So, you know, guys, when it comes to this type of stuff, I personally, I haven't really seen many Democrats say it was a home run hit out of the park, but it's not that it matters too much, because how many people, how many voters, especially independent voters, are going to see this that are casual. They're going to say, oh, now I'm not voting for her because of this. This is what it is. This is kind of just more for hardcore political people to look at and decipher. But to me, it's just, there's no accountability. There's no ownership. There's no actually trying to be honest with people. And so that's what's really bad. And again, there's really no policy when she's asked specifically, what are you going to do on X? What are you going to do day one? And it's just word salad. There's no actual real coherent answer. And so that's what the big issue is. And this doesn't surprise me. They hit her for a reason. She was not talking to the media for a reason. It's because it's very clear that they're in this weird period where they're trying to untether her from the Biden administration, but it's just going to be basically a Biden administration 2.0. How could it not be? She's the VP of the Biden administration, but they have to try and convince people that no, it's going to be different. But it's like, it's the same thing. And again, you're not saying really anything different. There's no actual real policy that's going to change much. I think Biden would run on this exact same stuff, because if Biden was running, he would have to say, I'm going to do things different in my second term, because his approval rating was so bad. He just can't say I'm doing the exact same thing. He was losing all the polls. So it's like with Harris, she has to say, well, I'm someone different, even though I'm the VP. It's a very weird dynamic. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.